To sum up, so far, it appears to me that Hawking has signally failed to answer the central question of philosophy: why is there something rather than nothing? He says that the existence of gravity means the creation of the universe was inevitable. But how did gravity come to exist in the first place? Who put it there with all its properties and its potential for mathematical description? And similarly, when he argues in support of the theory of spontaneous creation, that it was only necessary for the blue touch paper to be lit to set the universe going, I'm tempted to ask, where did this blue touch paper come from? What exactly is it? It's clearly not part of the universe if it set the universe going. So who lit it, if not God? Another brilliant astronomer, widely regarded as the father of modern astronomy, Alan Sandage, who discovered quasars and won the astronomer's equivalent of the Nobel Prize, the Crawford Prize, he is in no doubt about his answer. He says, "I find it quite improbable that such order came out of chaos. There has to be some organizing principle. God to me is a mystery, but is the explanation for the miracle of existence. Why there is something rather than nothing." It's important for me to say at this point that since Hawking's book, The Grand Design, has not yet appeared in the bookshops, I have only been able to read an extract from it. And so all that I have been able to say is based on that extract. So I'm personally looking forward very much to reading it and seeing if some of my reactions need to be modified. But let's take the title itself, The Grand Design. Now, in the extract I have read, Hawking points out that he, like every other physicist, is confronted with very powerful evidence of design in the universe. He writes this: "Our universe and its laws appear to have a design that both is tailor-made to support us and, if we are to exist, leaves little room for alteration. That is not easily explained and raises the natural question of why it is that way." He then goes on to point out that the discovery relatively recently of the extreme fine-tuning of so many of the laws of nature could lead at least some of us back to the old idea that this grand design is the work of some grand designer. But Hawking adds, that is not the answer of modern science. Our universe seems to be one of many, each with different laws. And with this we arrive at the multiverse. The idea here is, roughly speaking, that there are so many universes, some suggest infinitely many, whatever that might mean, that anything that can happen will happen in some universe. It's then not surprising, so the argument goes, that there is at least one universe like ours. Now let me point out in passing that Hawking once again has fallen into the trap of offering false alternatives: God or the multiverse. From a theoretical point of view, philosophers, that despised race it seems, have pointed out that God could create as many universes as he pleases. And that is that, logically speaking, the multiverse concept does not itself rule God out. And in addition to that, forgetting the other universes, the physical constants in this universe are fine-tuned. They could have been otherwise, so that the theory of the multiverse does not in any case annul the evidence of God's grand design that is to be perceived in its fine-tuning. But let's get back to Hawking's multiverse. Now here he's moving out beyond science into the very realm of philosophy, whose death he has already announced in the same book. Furthermore, he's claiming to be the voice of modern science. He says that the old notion that there was a designer God behind the universe is not the answer of modern science. But he cannot be speaking for all scientists, because there are many contemporary scientists that disagree with him. One of them is Professor Sir John Polkinghorne, himself an eminent theoretical physicist. He not only believes in God, but as a scientist he rejects the multiverse concept. He says this: let us recognize these speculations for what they are. They are not physics. They are, in the strictest sense, metaphysics. There is no purely scientific reason to believe in an ensemble of universes. By construction, these other worlds are unknowable by us. A possible explanation of equal intellectual respectability, and to my mind greater economy and elegance, would be that this one world is the way it is because it is the creation of the will of a creator who purposes that it should be so. I'm tempted to add that belief in God seems an infinitely more rational option, if the alternative is to believe that every other universe that can possibly exist does exist, including one in which Richard Dawkins is the Archbishop of Canterbury, Christopher Hitchens the Pope, and Billy Graham has just been voted Atheist of the Year. To be serious once more, but perhaps I was being serious, Hawking's ultimate theory to explain why the laws of physics are as they are is called M-theory, a theory of supersymmetric gravity that involves very sophisticated concepts such as vibrating strings in 11 dimensions. Hawking confidently calls it the unified theory that Einstein was expecting to find. However, theoretical physicist Jim Al-Khalili says here that the connection between this multiverse idea and M-theory is tentative. Advocates of M-theory, such as Witten and Hawking, would have us believe that it is done and dusted, but its critics have been sharpening their knives for a few years now, arguing that M-theory is not even a proper scientific theory if it is untestable experimentally. At the moment, it's just a compelling and beautiful mathematical construct, and in fact only one of a number of candidate theories of everything. Very interestingly, Khalili adds, Hawking is rightly critical of those with religious faith who regard the fine-tuning of the universe to suit us as evidence of a supreme designer. But to use the same argument as evidence of the correctness of M-theory is, in my view, not much more convincing. And Paul Davies, whom we cited above, who isn't a theist, he says of M-theory, it's not testable, not even in any foreseeable future. And Oxford physicist Frank Close goes even further. M-theory is not even defined. We are even told no one seems to know what the M stands for. Perhaps, he suggests, it is myth. Close concludes, I don't see that M-theory adds one iota to the God debate, either pro or con. And John Butterworth, another physicist who works at the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, says M-theory is highly speculative and certainly not in the zone of science that we've got any evidence for. So M-theory appears not to be as certain as Hawking himself suggests. And even if it were, we've already seen that logic tells us that it couldn't create anything. It can only at best be a description of something that already exists through some other cause than the laws of physics that it encapsulates. I'd like now to turn to another aspect of Hawking's thinking. Science, for all of us who are scientists, is a rational activity. And it presupposes a faith in the rational intelligibility of the universe. Einstein once said that he couldn't imagine a scientist who didn't share this faith. Now, this is a very important element because all scientists share it, whether or not they believe in God. And yet, Hawking suggests, I quote here, that we human beings are nothing but mere collections of fundamental particles of nature. He does not seem to realize that if this were true, it would not only undermine belief in God, it would undermine the very rationality we need to study science. Indeed, if it were true that we are mere collections of fundamental particles of nature, how would we even know it? How could we grasp what a fundamental particle was? After all, if the brain is thus merely the end product of a mindless, unguided process, then there is no reason whatsoever to believe in its capacity to tell us the truth about the universe out there. Hawking's view here seems to me to make no sense at all, in every sense of that word. This existence of the capacity for rational thought is surely one of the greatest pointers of all, not downwards to chance and necessity, but upwards to an intelligent source of that rational capacity. For instance, we live in an information age, and we are well aware that language type information is intimately connected with intelligence. We only have to see the letters of our name, perhaps 6 or 7 letters, spelt out in the sand on the seashore, to recognize at once the work of an intelligent agent. How much more likely, then, is the existence of an intelligent creator behind human DNA, that colossal biological database that contains no fewer than 3.5 billion letters, the longest word yet discovered? Now, it's fascinating that Hawking, in attacking religion, feels compelled to put so much emphasis on the Big Bang theory that we've been discussing, because even if non-believers don't like it, the Big Bang fits in exactly with the Christian narrative of creation. The words Big Bang really are a label on a mystery, but what they tell us is the universe had a beginning. And before the Big Bang theory gained its current currency, many scientists were keen to dismiss it, since it seemed to support the biblical story. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Many clung on to Aristotle's view of the eternal universe, without beginning or end. But this theory and variants of it, like the steady state theory of Fred Hoyle, are now largely discredited.